Why, it sucks to be born a donkey. Rural Chiredzi, Zimbabwe. An owl hoots in the dead of night. The warm wind rattles the convertible shack end of your tiny wildwood enclosure. Your mother licks you clean, her rough tongue scraping off the birth fluids on your coat. Your long ears twitch for the first time as you ramp up momentum for your first attempt at standing up. Eventually, it takes about 10 attempts, but you finally made it. You're up and wobbling, engaging your balance for the first time. Your mother stands alongside you through it all, standing calmly as she sniffs at the bare earth for non existent grass. Your first night passes by uneventfully for the most part. The dark dog growls at the edge of the enclosure, but your mother brays back with enough aggression to make him think twice about checking you out. You see his skinny frame slink off into the night. At dawn, a short, elderly man approaches the enclosure, rousing you and your mother as you stand up for the 11th time of your life. The man opens the rudimentary gate by removing the small logs covering the entrance. He strolls towards you and your mother and ducks slightly when going under the shack roof. He regards you closely before suddenly lifting you up by your ears and looking at your underbelly. He yells something back at the mud hut he came from, and another voice shouts back in response. A woman. The man proceeds to grab a small plastic jug and set it underneath your mother. His hands reach for her teats, and he milks her. But what gives? You haven't even had breakfast yet. You investigate more closely, but receive a firm punch on the nose. The man might be skinny, but his hand is hard, and he knocks you clueless before going back to milking your mother. She does nothing about it and stands nonchalantly as you shake off the blow and keep your distance. A little while later, a young boy, the man's son, takes the jug and heads off somewhere. Eventually, you learn that they take your mother's milk to market. After milking, the man returns with some rope and old harnesses and ties them onto your mother. You watch as she stands there, calm as ever. The man pulls the lead and she follows. You follow too, but the man blocks your way with the entrance logs. You bray and whinny and whine, but they don't come back. Your mother brays meekly a couple of times, but the tight lead won't allow her to turn her head back to you. By mid-morning, the sun is already out of mercy. The thin vegetation around the man's little compound is thinner than he is, and sparse. Most of the shrubs and trees are very short, with tiny leaves on some of them. However, a humongous baobab tree looms large near the hut, bathing the main yard in precious shade. As the sun approaches its midday apex, the man and your mother are still not back. You watch the hut area as the woman sweeps the yard with sticks. A little toddler plays in the dirt a few feet from the mother. By afternoon, the heat is at Death Valley levels of brutality, and the clear blue skies seem to have better promises of aliens than rain. The woman brings a broken calabash to the edge of the enclosure and whistles twice. Suddenly, a bunch of critters skitter into action and storm toward the jagged clay bowl. A skinny rooster, a skinny dog, and something resembling a duck all rush onto the scene in a colorful blur. You watch as the dog growls the birds away and hungrily slurps the contents of the calabash. Water, probably. Your sharp ears don't pick up anything solid enough to be food, even from 12 yards away. Soon, the woman grabs another stick and holds it menacingly over the dog, who gets the message and splits. The rooster and duck soon get a turn as the woman turns her gaze at you and beckons by snapping her fingers. Confused and a little cautious after the man's punch, you stay where you are under the low shack roof. You've been standing for hours, ever ready to run and show your mother your improved balance when she gets back, if she gets back. Eventually, your panicked heart settles when you see the familiar shape of a skinny man leading a large gray shape toward the enclosure. It's around dusk, and the man has returned with your mother. He opens the enclosure to let her in and closes it behind her. Finally, the two of you are reunited at last. You sniff at each other happily, and she lets you suckle what little milk she has left. Later that evening, you attempt to suckle again, but your mother knocks you back firmly with her thigh. She seems exhausted and goes to sleep early and soundly. After a few months of this daily routine, the man brings a few extra tree bark ropes and harnesses to the enclosure one morning. He ties your mother as normal before turning toward you and securing the other set of ropes on you. You wriggle and squirm, but you comply because you don't want to make the man angry, and besides, your mother never complains about the bondage. With your leads secure, the man pulls and urges the two of you to follow. The three of you walk into the scorching valley shrubland and leave the homestead and looming baobab tree behind. After about an hour of walking, you reach a clearing, bustling with activity. Cars and buses honk at each other on the nearby dusty road. Men and women behind makeshift stalls yell and advertise their wares. Donkey milk, goat milk, honey, fruit, mushrooms, and a bunch of other items are on display. Children play amidst the dirt, and bus conductors shout for more passengers. At one end of the clearing is a sight that really catches you by surprise. Donkeys. Lots and lots of donkeys. At least a few dozen. All shapes and sizes. Tall, miniature, old, young, gray, blonde, brown, near black, and near white. Besides the congregated mass of donkeys are a bunch of men and boys, yelling and advertising their respective animals. Customers examine closely, checking ears and asking questions. The skinny man ties your mother to a nearby tree and leads you toward the donkeys on sale as he adds his voice to the market chorus. You watch your mother, and she wrestles expertly with some of the tough grass that grows in this arid place. You stand meekly among the depressed-looking group of asses as owners and customers haggle and moan. After what feels like an eternity, the tall man hands your owner, the skinny man, a few pieces of paper, and they shake hands. The tall man nods at a young boy, who responds by taking your lead from the skinny man and leading you away in the opposite direction from your mother. You bray and kick and shriek, but your mother only raises her head and looks on powerless. It's been a long day already, and she doesn't seem strong enough to even bray and protest, let alone stop this separation. As you fight against your lead, the tall man picks up a stick with a thick strip of rubber at the end and expertly flicks it in your direction. Whack! The rubber lands on your rump, and the pain shuts you right up. Stubborn, move it! The tall man shouts. The young boy, presumably the tall man's son, pulls the lead, and this time you don't resist. Apart from a weak jerk for one final glance at your mother. She stares back, emanating calm, almost as if she were sending some of that relaxed energy towards you. It's the only thing she can do for you now. After several hours of walking, the tall man, his son, and their new donkey make it to their own little homestead around evening fall. With the help of the whip, you've already learned how to carry a couple of sacks of flour and cornmeal. They weren't nearly as big as some of the sacks and piles of wood you've seen your mother carrying, but they were a solid start. This new homestead is even more bare than your birth home. There's no enclosure, no baobab, and the shrubs are even more sparse. As you approach the tiny hut, the only building in sight, you see a rickety frame cart, similar to a few from the market. Eventually, you'll learn that your job is to haul that cart to and fro, transporting wood, sugarcane, groceries, and even people where they need to go. It's hard work, and the hours are long, with some destinations taking a few days to reach. You even get a name, Stubborn. You meet all kinds of other animals on your journey, including other donkeys. Most are quiet and reserved enough, but a notable few are aggressive towards you, and some even bless you with a few bite marks and kicks over the years. But it's not all bad. Sometimes neighbors bring their female donkeys for studding, a job you perform ever so vigorously. But they and their owners don't stick around for long, and you never know if some of the foals at market are yours, which is a bit of a drag. When you're not working, you are tied up behind the tall man's hut. Sundays are the hardest because the family has gone to church all day and they leave you tied up with no shade. Sometimes they forget to refill your water bucket, and sometimes you knock it over by accident. Those days are hard. But through it all, you endure calmly like your mother taught you. What else is there to do?